Hello and welcome back for episode 16 of the Sheepdog Brotherhood. As always, I'm still Doug Hewlett, and with me, unfortunately, is still Brett Atterbury. However, the good thing today
trying
is
to get better every day, as far as
Brett
you know.
today, at least, is decked out in full Sheepdog Brotherhood regalia. He's got the hat, he's got the shirt, he's got the original Sheepdog Brotherhood shirt. Brett, can you show us the back?
Yeah, let me pose first. Okay,
what was that?
That's probably enough of that. All right, tell me how it looks.
Oh yeah, rotate your shoulders forward. There you go. There you go. That looks good, Brett. Man, well done. I'm excited to see how it goes with you wearing that out into the wild today.
Yeah, so at church, maybe go to a restaurant, go shopping at the grocery store, see what happens. If anyone takes the bait, I'll be certain to report. Let you know.
Please do. I'm excited. Mine comes tomorrow, so excited to get my hands on it.
Yeah, cool.
Excellent. So, well, look, you and I before we hit record, we were talking about what this episode was going to be about. You want to give us a little preview? Because to be quite honest, with all the technical difficulties we had this morning, I've completely forgotten what we were going to talk about.
Is it so one of the themes of the Sheepdog Brotherhood podcast is technical difficulties. Why does this keep happening? I kind of think it's spiritual warfare. That's what it is, Doug. It's the demons are messing around with the networks, and let's just leave it at that.
I concur.
So,
okay, but I finally remembered.
I'm glad.
So we were talking about
time there because I couldn't remember either.
So we talk about, our sort of prevailing ethos for the Sheepdog Brotherhood is a quote, as evidenced by the back of Brett's t-shirt. God has assigned us a duty to every man, the dignity of every woman.
Hey, Doug, before you continue.
By the late St. Pope John Paul II.
Before you continue with something real smart that you're about to say, I do want to affirm you and congratulate you. I think it's the first time ever you got the quote exactly right. After the Sheepdog Brotherhood has now been almost, 6 months? And it's 14 words. I knew you could do it. I knew it. And I've been praying for you. And here we are. You finally nailed it. Now, I don't know if you could do it twice in a row, but you got it once, and that's enough for me.
In the words of Forrest Gump, I'm not a smart man. So look, with that being our prevailing ethos, how do we live that out? And Brett and I were talking about what exactly that should look like. And I think, as men, I think we exist in extremes, right? It's like all or nothing all of the time. And we were giving some examples to each other about, situations in which, at least talking about our spouses, how do you love, honor, and dignify your spouse, your wife, and what does that look like? And trying to come up with some examples of what it isn't and, what it is that you could do. And we were talking about, so my father just turned 90 last week, and he had a store that he hated. I mean, my father didn't hate anything, but he hated this one store in particular, Joanne Fabrics. Okay. And my mom, for whatever reason, I don't remember her ever buying fabric, but I mean, if they weren't at that store at least twice a month, it wasn't a full and complete month. She was always going there.
Just to
never bought any fabric.
Look at stuff. She's it's like going to the museum or something. Just not buy. Just look.
Quite frankly, I think it was just to torment the poor guy. But look, as husbands, we are often called on and asked to do things that we probably don't want to do. We would rather be doing something else. So, we've all been there. We've all been asked to go do a thing that you're not keen on doing. But does that honor and dignify our wives? And I think we just wanted to kind of kick around some ideas, bat them back and forth about ways that we could, in practicality, show our love for our wives as we're called on to do in Ephesians 5, right? Love your bride the way Christ loved the church, etc., etc. Look, luckily my wife doesn't want to go to Joann Fabrics a whole lot. But here's the thing. I chose to marry my wife. I fell in love with her and I asked her to marry me. I love spending time with her. Not all of the things that she likes doing do I like to do. But at the end of the day, I like being with her. I like spending time with her. So I do things that I know she wants to do, and I wear a face. I don't wear like a mopey, I'm being dragged around stores that I don't want to go to. I've just chosen to enjoy it, right? Like, I make fun of things. I'll look at stuff on the racks and, make jokes. And it's how I deal with situations that I don't necessarily enjoy, but I enjoy her company, and I enjoy when our daughter's with us and we get to go places and spend time together. I don't care what we're doing as long as we're together. So anyway, one example.
Yeah,
Brett,
I think you're hitting on a great point. It's kind of, in my mind, it's kind of a spectrum of, we'll just stick with the Joann Fabrics example since you just teed that up. But let's just say your wife, mom, loves Joann Fabrics. And I'll even say she goes there once a week. And maybe it's to do nothing productive at all. She just likes being in the presence of stuff and looking at stuff and touching and feeling it or whatever. And, on the one end of the spectrum, where you can kind of like see as a husband, like where you are on this spectrum. On one extreme end, you're like, no way am I going. I hate that place. No chance. I've got things to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you look at it that way, you're not stepping into your wife's life at all. You're just saying, like, someone made a suggestion that I should go to a place like that. And why would I? Because I hate that place, right? You've completely moved your relationship with your wife, like, off to the side. So I would say in that extreme, you're being completely self-centered, right? It's like, this is the WIFM, like, what's in it for me to do this? Including a calculation where your wife is not part of that calculation, and you've come out with an answer of 0 or minus something. And you're like, I ain't going. On the other end is, I think, what you were getting to, which I really like, which is like, yeah, the truth is, and we should all be honest, is there's nothing there at Joann Fabrics of particular interest for me. That's nothing there is in my worldview of my profession, my hobbies, my whatever. But I don't care, because all I care about is spending time with my wife and seeing her enjoy the things that she loves. And that's what gives me great joy. So it's not being at Joann Fabrics that gives me great joy. It's watching my wife have great joy while she's at Joann Fabrics. And she wants to share that with me. And I want to be part of that. That's freaking awesome. So that's the other extreme that I would say where you are, hopefully, which is good. But then there's that middle ground, which is like, looks a lot like the first guy. Like, I have no way, no way, no way. But I have this inkling of guilty conscience, so I think I'm supposed to go do this. And yet you go, and the whole time you're there, either externally or internally or both, you are complaining, you're bitching, you're looking down at your watch or your phone to see, watching the minutes pass. You can't wait to get out of there. You're probably going to get to the point where sooner or later you're going to say, honey, can we go now? To me, that guy is almost like worse than the first guy, because this guy in the middle is like being dishonest and deceitful. The other guy, at least, extremely self-centered for sure, but at least he's being honest. He's more integrated, if you will, not necessarily a great way, but at least he knows who he is. Yet the second guy, this guy in the middle, is kind of a fake, right? So it's like, oh, I'll go, but he's still as self-centered as the first guy. And he's actually probably causing more problems while he's there with his wife, who would have probably had a better experience if he had not gone, because it becomes he brings his self-centeredness with him, and it ends up like kind of ruining the whole experience for her.
There's nothing worse than like going to do a thing that you enjoy to do, and then you feel like you have to hurry through it because the person you're with has completely lost interest. And, look, I'm not, I'll go to, I honestly can't think of a store that I won't go to. Whatever, like, I am not that important that like my time is so valuable and so important that if I spend 30 minutes or 1 hour a month at some shop that I can't stand, like, it's going to ruin me. Like, I honestly, whatever. I mean, here's something that I'm terrible at. It's when I come home, turning off the switch and not looking at my phone, or not, like, for so long, I lived a life where if my phone went off, like, I needed to respond immediately. And it's very hard to break that. Like, it's always got to be on me looking at things, and while my work does, custom cabinetry does not have emergencies, right? Like, my drawer won't shut. It's like, well, try pushing it in, Oh, did you try that? Like, those things don't happen. So, I find that I'm getting that dopamine hit by looking at LinkedIn, right? Or looking to see if more people have watched these videos, and I'm removing myself from the time that I get to spend with my family. Now, granted, look, sometimes when I'm having a BM, I just want to be left alone. But I can't think of the last time I had one where somebody didn't come into the bathroom and I'm like, hey, let's chat. Like, I really just like to sit there and, maybe watch a couple of YouTube shorts and enjoy myself.
It's going pretty well down
here. Funny you should ask. But I think one thing that men can do, maybe going to Joann Fabrics is
maybe one of the ideas is a bridge too far a Sheepdog Brotherhood,
but maybe just being present.
We're going to gather at the Joann Fabrics, a group of men. We're going to spend an hour there, and you have to have a smile on your face the whole time. This is, what do they call that? It's when it's conditioning, like acclimation, whatever it is, but where you need to get tough about something, so you need to go like force yourself to do it.
It's a great idea. I think
it's not a great idea.
Like, you want to go where, honey?
It's a joke. If we want to grow the Sheepdog Brotherhood membership, I think the idea of the tour of Joann Fabrics with other men is probably something we should leave off of the menu, because we're probably not going to have many testimonials about, how did the Sheepdog Brotherhood change you for the better? Well, it wasn't these incredibly insightful podcasts by these two doofuses. It was the trip to Joann's Fabric. That's what made it for me. Turned me into a better man.
It was weird that they did a gathering, and they practiced like tomahawk throwing and like, building things out of wood. And then strangely, we went to Joann Fabrics to get curtains for the cabinets. I don't know. It was the weirdest event.
Was kind
I don't
of
think I'm going back.
to me. The tomahawk throws and the carving with knives was pretty cool. Shooting guns, going fishing. That Joann Fabrics thing, yeah, I'm not sure where that came from.
I tell you what, though, I bet there's one guy out there that's like, wow, that was some really nice fabric. But Brett, I think you brought up a really good point. I think that the idea is that self-centeredness that I think sometimes we fall into, right? Like, and maybe it's because of work, right? While you're at work, you have a mission to complete. You have a task that you are responsible for achieving, goals that have to be hit, and everything has a purpose. And I feel like men are very much wired to be aware of a purpose and a task, and certain shopping is outside of that. Like, okay, if I go to Home Depot, I'm going because I need X, Y, and Z. If I'm going to car shop, I'm going because I want to go see a car that would maybe fit our lifestyle better, et cetera. Shopping, there's a purpose, and it's to acquire a thing. Maybe you're doing some research to then buy a thing. But I feel like since the soft goods world is not really where a lot of guys live, the thought of going to look at fabrics to get some ideas, like, well, if I'm not buying anything, why the hell am I going? Like that it's hard to, but again, there's a purpose behind it. And I think what we need to do a better job of realizing is that, yeah, sure, maybe I don't want to watch that movie. Right? I got dragged into watching Barbie a couple weeks ago.
I'm proud of you. My goodness, I have not watched it. You probably won't be shocked to hear that, but man, I'm proud of you. Wow.
I did it. It's like
2 hours
a badge of some
nails
sort.
Screeching on the chalkboard.
It wasn't good.
Gosh.
Yeah, not enjoyable, not good. But you know what?
Yeah.
All the leftism that's in it went right over my daughter's head, which was great. She's 8, but it's Barbie, so it said Barbie in the title, so she went to watch it.
There you go.
But you know what? I got to sit on the couch and watch Barbie with my daughter. I couldn't care less that the message was crap, that the movie wasn't very good, but I got to spend time with my daughter, and that's what's more important. So often, I think we again get wrapped up in what is the purpose of this? Why am I going to do this? And not, think about when we first started dating our spouses. If the girl said that she was into bird watching, like you were buying binoculars like 10 minutes later, right? Even if you had no interest in birds.
In the meantime, your bird knowledge extends to about, I know what a sparrow is.
How about this?
It can fly, I think.
You're like, it's got wings, right? Is that makes it a bird? So why do we let that attitude die? Why do we let that, it's until we catch our prey, right? Like if you're pursuing this woman that you're interested in, you do all these things that you probably normally wouldn't do. You're like writing poetry, singing songs, like, whatever you think is gonna win her over. And then the minute you get her and she's now your significant other, well, okay, well, I caught my prey. Now I'm going to go revert back to being who I was. And, Nicole and I just celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary, 15 years together. And, I enjoy spending time with her. So I do stuff that probably wouldn't want to do. I watch movies that I don't really care about, but I don't know. I got other things to worry about during the day, not necessarily doing stuff that I don't want to do. But I got there, right? That wasn't always the case.
Maybe this is more the human condition that's a little stronger in men. I'm kind of guessing there. But this thing that you're going for, this thing that you want, you desire to marry this woman, and you're doing all these things, what you say, singing songs and writing poetry and dancing. Do you have any videos of you doing that? I'd love to see that. And trust me, I wouldn't laugh. I wouldn't make fun of you. You can trust me. I wouldn't post it on any websites, anything like that. Of course not. So, and then it
No,
happens.
of course not.
And then, like you said, you start reverting back to, I call it like there's this gravitational pull back to self-centeredness always as part of our brokenness that you have to fight. You have to intentionally have a process where you're actively engaging that. You know it's there. I think it's there for most everybody. And how do I fight that and rejuvenate and refresh so that I'm like a rocket ship pulling out from that gravity back out, to where I want to be. Where I want to be, in your case, dancing around, throwing flower petals and writing poetry. Me, maybe not quite that far, but directionally, yes, that direction. And that's so interesting, Doug, because, and we can talk about that as part of the brotherhood, because I know that in that respect, that gravitational pull back to self-centeredness is so strong. Without some kind of accountability and transparency, and somebody in a non-judgmental way, but just in a loving way, saying, well, how's that going for you? Like tell me about your week, and how's that working? Do you have specific examples of where the gravitational pull back to self-centeredness so natural, where you recognized it and you're like, oh boy, there it is, and you took action in some way to kind of turn that ship around and head back out, into the space that you want to be in? It's hard to do on your own. I mean, we're our own, I'm generalizing here, but we're our own worst accountability partners, because that self-centered person as your accountability partner, guess what? Says, well, of course it's okay to head back into yourself, and you don't need to go to Joanne Fabrics because you're not going to enjoy that. I mean, come on, dude, there's a college football game to watch. So I like that thought of men holding each other accountable. If you knew that next week I have to hang out with my bros and we're going to talk about these things, and if I'm sitting there with this litany of things that I did, which as I look at them were all about me. My wife invited me to Joanne Fabrics. I said no because I wanted to go to the driving range and work on my 9-iron shots. Wow. Not good, right? And reporting that and being accountable to that to other men who are going to look at you and say, dude, come on, man, we love you. You can't do that. You're not living Ephesians 5. Let's get out and get better. I think that's pretty cool.
Look, I know sometimes, right? We live on 10 acres. We've got a lot of property and like things that have to get done. And so sometimes it makes sense for me to, hey, honey, like, why don't you go do that? I'll stay here. And, I would love to go to Joanne Fabrics with you. But I've got to get the grass done, and I've got to take care of the chickens, and I got to build this thing over here. If you want, I'm happy to go with you, or I can stay here and knock out some of these things. Like, what do what would you?
Or we can work on the chickens together and then go to
right?
Joanne's
Rather,
after that.
I guess
lots of options.
There are ways that we can, or to the golfing example. Hey, you know what? Let's make a day out of it. Why don't we'll go to Joanne Fabrics, then when we're done there, why don't we go to the driving range? I don't know. Maybe maybe the wife says like, oh, I hate golf. Okay, well, honey.
Yeah, let's not.
I'm not a big fan of Joanne Fabrics, but I like spending time with you.
I mean,
see where that goes.
5 turns it around to the wife too, right?
Yeah.
And so, well, this could be another whole topic. So I don't want to. This would be a good show to do, but just to kind of tee it up, it's really interesting in a relationship, and I'll have a story about this for another episode. But if you're the one, and let's talk specifically about marriage, but if you're the one that's living this out as a man, you're living Ephesians 5. I think it's specifically Ephesians 5:25 for those that want to go look at it. And you're living that out, and that's what you're called to do. And yet there's zero kind of reciprocation coming from the other direction, like ever. In other words, that gravitational pull we're talking about to self-centeredness, that's a human condition, not just men. This affects our female counterparts just as much. And so if you're in a marriage relationship like that and only one person is living out Ephesians 5:25, and the other person is so caught up in the gravitational pull of self that the relationship becomes so imbalanced because one is completely giving and the other is completely taking. All this begins to look like is this person over here who's giving, guess what? Gets completely sucked into the gravitational pull of the one who's not giving and totally loses his identity as a human being and becomes nothing more than a tool that the other person, in this case, I'm going to talk about a woman, but it goes both ways, that the woman feels entitled to. And so this has to be, for a very healthy, amazing relationship, this has to go both ways. But to your point right there, it's like you can model that to your wife, right? By talking about, as you just said, it's like, well, the most important thing, honey, is I want to spend time with you, no matter what we're doing. Here's all the things out here. Here's my interest over here, golf. Here's your interest over here, Joanne Fabrics. Our combined interest here, taking care of the property and the chickens and the plant or the crops and all that stuff. And let's just figure it out. I mean, let's figure out how to do this where we're both just spending time together, loving one another, meeting each other's needs, getting things done. And just by bringing up that as an option set, you're modeling to your spouse, like, this is how we do it, as a team.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head.
Hey, bye,
and with that, thanks for tuning in. No, look, I think all we're trying to say is that we men, certainly, I can only speak for being a man, but we're kind of broken and busted, and we need each other to hold us accountable, to make good decisions, look, I was talking to somebody the other day explaining the Sheepdog Brotherhood to them. And I used the pornography example. And I was explaining how, knowing that I'm in this group and we get on these calls and we do this podcast every week. It's not just me accountable to me, convincing myself to do something or not to do something or justifying why I, a reason to look at pornography and like, well, it's because of X, Y, and Z. It's, you know what? Like Brett and I we've never talked about it, but like, I know the standard that you hold yourself to, and I'm going to hold myself to a similar standard, because I know that if I give in and, give into my animal brain, I'm letting you down. And I'm letting other guys down who may be trying to do the same thing. But if I know that I'm in this together and I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with somebody, and I have to work hard to make good decisions. So I have to pick up my cross and do those things. But I know that I'm doing it alongside of men that I respect, alongside men that want me to be better so that I can be a better husband and a better father, a better friend. And I'm not alone. Because it's when we're alone, that we're in the darkness. It's when we're alone that we make those bad decisions, because the enemy gets to us and like whispers in our ear those things that sort of sound like, well, that makes sense. I guess it's okay. But I have to look at you in the face, and I know you don't know unless I tell you, but knowing that there's somebody there that I could be letting down because I'm
Yeah.
not holding myself up to the standard that
Think
I'm
about it,
talking
Doug,
about. I don't want to be a
think
hypocrite.
about it in the extreme,
So,
because since you and I have shared this
that's it.
experience, I think
That's what this
3
group is
times,
about.
uh, Acts retreats with men. And first we were together as retreatants, and then I think we were on 2 teams together, something like that. And that 3 days when you're there, those men, just an environment of complete vulnerability, transparency, accountability. And to your point about being alone and how when you're alone, that's when you're much more likely to engage in acts that are degrading to yourself, that you just don't want to do, to your spouse or to your friends, to your family, to your other brothers.
And to your spouse.
You're letting you're letting yourself down for sure, letting God down, but you're letting your team down. And think about how that doesn't happen when you're at that Acts retreat environment. It doesn't even cross your mind, at least in my experience, because you're there in an environment of just having a great desire to increase yourself in virtue and holiness, principle decision making, all kinds of good things, but also to help other men that are there in that environment, whether they're, you're on the team and you're part of the team doing that for the retreatants, whether you're the retreatant trying to do that for the other retreatants there. It's just this environment of so much empowerment and accountability. It's so powerful. And it's like, now someone would say, yeah, that's extreme. And I agree, but it shows the potential of what can happen if we're at least moving in that direction, right? Rather than the extreme of I'm by myself all the time and, the demons are after me and it's really hard to resist all that when the only other person you have to turn to is your own inner self, and that's that self-centered person. Terrible person to ask to hold you accountable. Terrible person. But man, your brothers can be a huge part of that. Play an enormous role in at least getting you towards that direction of that environment I'm talking about when we were at the Acts retreats.
Yeah, I mean, look, we want to show men that it's not easy to stand in the gap. It's not easy to make those hard decisions to do the right thing. But the brotherhood component is you're not alone in doing it. So we're very shortly here going to be opening up the Sheepdog Brotherhood to more members, getting people involved more actively. Coming up with some active participation events that we're going to be doing.
Hey,
so be on the
don't
lookout
forget,
for those. But
coming soon,
thanks again
your
for tuning in,
ability
guys.
to purchase awesome gear. Thank you, Doug. You too. God bless you.
Awesome, Brett. Hey, have a great week, brother. Take care. Bye.